Hi, everyone. I am so excited about today because I get to talk to Adam Rasner. He's a seasoned technologist. He's started at WebMD in his career, Rayonier, Burger King, then Restaurant Brands International, and now at AutoNation. I've asked him to share his journey, and he's a super veteran. Like there are so many vendors that want to have him join the cab that he has to say no to. I've also interviewed him in length in my book because we've known each other for plus 20 years.
Very
And he knows what a world class advisory board looks like, and he also knows how to improve them from the customer point of view. And I'm just so excited to have you here. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, okay, the first cab that I know you've been on is on Riverbed. Oh, wait, and you also took time from IT to go back and get an MBA, correct?
Yeah, it took a little bit of time to get my master's in business just because I thought it would add value down the road in my career. As you get into leadership roles, understanding the financials is pretty important. So yeah, I thought it was a good investment of time and money.
I want to say I got to ask for you to join our customer advisory board at Riverbed, and then since then, uh, I don't know, you're just on the hook all the time to be on advisory boards.
Yeah.
So, kind of tell me what are some that you've enjoyed being on?
Yeah, so Riverbed Cab was a very long time ago. It's kind of sad to think about how long ago it was, but
It was.
through those years, I've been approached to be part of various cabs, and I've taken the approach that if the product is critical to our business's mission and they deliver on the promise of what we were sold,
Mhm.
I always consider these more like partnerships. People, we call them vendors or whatever, but I consider it partnerships. And so I'm willing to invest in back into that company to give them good, valuable feedback.
Mhm.
I think it's a win-win. I think they get good feedback from us, and then
Right.
they tell us their roadmap, their agenda down the road, and
Yeah.
the well-run cabs. Um, both sides get good value out of it, and you actually see meaningful things come out of them.
When I first met you, you were a network engineer, and then soon you were running Rayonier IT. So, kind of tell me how your career kind of went from network engineer, senior network engineer, director, running parts of IT, all of IT. So, tell me about your journey.
Yeah, my interest really initially in technology was in networking. I found it super interesting and challenging and evolving. And so that's kind of where things started. And along the way, I think different people that I reported to saw something in me that I had the ability to understand the technology, but then I also had the people skills, the leadership skills to lead a team, which quite
Mhm.
honestly, people in our industry know it's hard to find a good blend of people that are both pretty proficient in technology, but also have the people skills and the leadership skills to run
Yeah.
a team. And
Yeah.
so I was given, a lot of different growth opportunities on the way to get to where I am today, at a VP
Yeah.
level in a Fortune 150 company. I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but I also have a lot of people to thank along the way that have helped me get here.
Mhm. Well, thank you. I appreciate your humility as always. I'm going to just jump into it. You've been to probably over 40 cabs. Last year I talked to you about that was about over 40. Would you
Yeah,
say?
roughly, give or take. Yeah,
Woo, that's a lot.
it
Okay,
is a lot.
so thank you for telling us how you think about why you want to serve on an advisory board. But how has it shaped your management style, your strategies, and then also networking? I think you get a little bit of everything, and you take it back to your company too. And how do you inform and share and grow your team and your business from sitting on advisory boards?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. I'll start with saying that there's no way for me to participate in every customer advisory board that I'm approached with. So I have to think about, where is the best use of my time. And so back to the
Mhm.
previous question, I look for vendors, partners that are foundational, that we've
Right.
made significant investments into, and that I
Right.
see it as a long term. partnership, almost like a marriage. And so in that marriage, there's going to be tough times, there's going to be good times. I need to
Yeah.
be able to provide, I need to be able to have a two-way street. And so the cab does a lot of different things. One is, I solicit feedback from my team before I'm about to go off to a cab to say, how are things going? What do we like to see? What are we happy about? What are we not happy about? And I take that feedback with me to the
Mhm.
cab and I share it at the cab. And more often than not, if they have the right level of people there, the
Right.
feedback can be generally similar. And what I find very powerful is that when you are taking time, sometimes you're gone 2 or 3 days out of the office, you could be flying across the country. You're making
Yes.
an investment of time, and you want to see things come out of that. And so, the best thing that can come out of a cab is where you have a partnership with a company that is taking the cab seriously. They're listening to the feedback, and they're affecting change based on what they're hearing.
Right.
I've been to lots of cabs where it felt very kind of salesy. I've been to quite a few that are very well run that are that they are listening to what we're saying, and then when I come back a year later, I've seen some real change. So that's my philosophy about how I choose which partners to participate in the cab, and then the networking component can't be understated. Um, I'm trying to. I want both sides to get benefits out of the time we're spending together, and certainly a benefit to me is to meet with a group of my peers from around the country, in some cases around the world, that are facing the same challenges. And
Mhm.
some of the best cabs I've been to, they certainly focus on their product, but then they
Right.
spend a good part of the day just talking about our industry and what our challenges are. And in most cases, they're very common challenges, and I learn an awful lot from the people sitting around the room how they're dealing with certain issues in
Right.
technology. It could be tech, it could be people issues, it could be work from home kind of stuff. It could be
Yeah.
any number of things, and so that's a significant value to me in
Yeah.
participating.
The networking, sorry, is like a springboard for you.
Yeah,
And you have this now after a cab, whether it be virtual or physical, you can still have like ongoing conversations with colleagues.
yeah, Irene, I've had people that have called me from cabs that I'm no longer on, or they're no longer on. Before we
Right.
linked in together.
Right.
I had a gentleman in another type of he's in the RV industry. We were on a
Mm.
cab together and contacted me, just asking me about some of the challenges in our systems and how we
Hmm.
were dealing with cloud and on-prem infrastructure. That's
Hmm.
happened more than one time, and so yeah, it's invaluable. It's
Right.
invaluable to have those relationships,
Yeah.
when you need them.
Yeah. Not to sound corny, right? But it's a true synergy that allows you to really build that connection, trust, and then afterwards, you just pick up the phone and ask for help, and you've built that trust over this customer advisory board
I'm
program.
trying to think. The longest cab I've probably been a part of is maybe 6 or 7 years in the making. Consistent, consecutive 7 years in a row, and
Wow.
it's not only am I looking forward to like getting some CEO visibility and hearing what the roadmap is and having
Right.
the product specific conversations, but I'm looking forward to seeing some of the people that I get to see once a year for one day. Potentially on the other side of the country or wherever they're going to have it, and just talking about how their life has been as a leader in technology.
Yeah, I mean, we buy at the end of the day from people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We don't buy tech from, I don't know, using Perplexity now to figure out if who's the best. We're looking at Gardner and everything like that, but it's about who you can connect with.
100%, 100%. I like to say like to me the manufacturers, the vendors, the partners, they are it's a relationship based business, and people
Yep.
do business with people that they like and they trust.
Yes.
And it's the same thing on the business side. I built really long standing relationships with people in all different industries, big companies, small companies, all different kinds of challenges. And that's there's value to me, and hopefully I'm giving that value back when we sit down and talk about what's going on in our lives and in our industry, in our companies.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just make a plug for you right now because I've known you so many years. But Adam, you were out here in the Bay. So I'm in the Bay Area. You're in.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
You were out here for business maybe 4 years ago. Sorry,
We were
four
doing
years ago.
EDCs.
Yeah,
EDCs. We've been for all. Actually, it was a whole bunch of different vendors. I think
yeah,
we knocked out about 8 or 9 in the Bay
yeah.
Area.
And I think it was CDW was really your partner in that brought you to all these meetings, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to make a plug for them because you've been talking about what a great partnership you've had with them, right? And that's that's what helps you, right? You need to find a good partner, right,
Yeah.
to grow, to scale. But not only that, you took the time to call me up and invite me to your dinner, and you were so kind because at that time I had lost Clyde, and it's been a few years in, and you were just checking in on me.
Yeah.
And I think that's we don't talk about that, but I think people when I try to find cab people to serve on the cab, I look at the soft side. Okay, yeah, you got the skills and you're knowledgeable, but I actually look at the person inside, like their integrity. And it's hard, but when you first try to meet with someone and get to learn who they are, it's really important to see who's best on the cab. So thank you for being a wonderful human, a dad, a person, and helping me out and just checking in on me. I appreciate that. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. But you and I are friends outside of all of this, so
Yeah.
I value that. And no, I don't disagree with you. If you're going to be the antisocial, you could be an amazing leader of a technology organization, but if you're going to show up to a cab and sit in a corner and not participate and don't have that kind of personality that can engage with people,
Right.
probably not a good fit for the cab because they're looking for a two-way conversation.
Right.
And it's funny enough, sometimes I go from a cab from year to year and they've made changes and I'm like, oh, are they not a customer anymore? And
Right.
what I get kind of quietly in my ears, well, they weren't a fit for our cab, they weren't
Hmm.
invited back. And I think that's a lot to do with personality. I mean, I'm sure to get invited to a cab, you're generally a pretty big customer, you're a big fish in their world. But there are other elements I think that are important to selecting your cab members for sure.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good segue to the next question. But I also want to say, yes, people on my side, when we're trying to build a cab, we want, of course, the biggest customers, but I also want to find the most strategic customers, those who really think ahead, those who have maybe opened up and shared a roadmap with us and say, wow, that kind of aligns with ours. And maybe they might be really good at being a part of our cab. Maybe they're a smaller business, but that's okay. I think their mindset is in the right place. And
Yeah.
I actually want a little bit of that mix. It doesn't have to be like the biggest, most strategic customer or something like that. It can be the little guy too,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just really
Yeah.
forward thinking, right?
Yeah, I think most of these big companies, when they're putting together their potential targets for cab members, they try to go
Right.
for the biggest dollar spenders, the biggest logos. You know, I only think that's one small element of the makeup of the right
Thank
type of
you.
person to be in a cab. And so, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Um, I've been to some cabs where it feels like I'm doing most of the talking. That's not good either, right? So,
Right.
got to get a bunch of like-minded people that are forward-thinking, that are not shy. I've given negative feedback, significant negative feedback at
Good.
cabs before,
Yes.
because I feel like that's what they want me to do, right? If
Yes.
things aren't going well, I'm going to tell them. And if you
Yes.
don't have that personality, it's not fit for you.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for elevating our cabs. You are seasoned, and there are people who want to be a part of the cab. Maybe a you know wicked smart IT leader in maybe a small company, not a big logo. How do they get a seat? How do they get invited on a customer advisory board? You were kind of there too.
Yeah,
I mean, I want to say early on at Rayonier, we didn't ask Mitch, the CIO at the time. We asked you.
yeah. Well, I think one, we were taking a fairly big position very early on in a relatively fairly unheard of product. It was coming along. I think we were early adopter. We were a decent sized customer. And I'm hoping what you're going to say is you saw something in me that you thought would be valuable for your senior leadership to hear from me and how we were using it, the good, bad, and the ugly. But the question is, how would I guide other people if you
Mhm.
wanted to be in cabs? Obviously, the selection is done by the partner, the vendor, the manufacturer. But I think I've been invited unsolicited most of the time, just because I'm like super. I'm very forthcoming with feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell them. I will tell them when things aren't going well. My
Mm-hmm.
local reps. I will be your biggest advocate if you do what you say you're going to do in the pre-sales process. I'm asked to do some testimonials and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it to you the other way too. When it's not going well, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be very vocal about it. And so I
Yeah.
think my guidance to you is the people that are selling to you,
Right.
have the dialogue. And if it's a two-way dialogue, both positive and negative, generally those are the kinds of people that will, that they want to hear from, and they want to invest in you, spend the money to fly you somewhere, put you up in a hotel, feed you for 2 or 3 days. And hopefully you've got to feel that it's a value to you personally to take 2 or 3 days out of the office, try to disconnect from everything going on in your day job, to go sit with them and, one, hear about the roadmap of the product, give them the good and bad feedback, network with peers to get some insights from them, and
Mm-hmm.
then come back with some learnings for your team. Bring feedback from your team and come back with
Yeah.
what you learned.
Yeah. Don't just keep it in your vest. Like share it
No,
out. Right.
no, zero value for
That's
me
right.
to know what's coming
That's
and not
right.
share it. I'm not, generally speaking, I'm not the hands-on keyboard anymore,
Right.
and so like I gotta feed information to and from my teams.
Yeah. That's great. You were the youngest customer advisor board member at Riverbed at the time. I think you were in your late 20s when
Something
you
like
joined.
that. Yeah,
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 you were a youngin.
yeah.
All right.
I just can't believe how long ago it's been. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you had this going on.
No, no.
All right. So you brought up a good point about spending time and flying across country, given the uncertainty of the world, and now we have these great tools, virtual or in person. I'd love to hear your take. Like, there's good parts to virtual. You can still
Yeah,
be with your family.
yeah,
So let's start there. What's your
yeah.
take on
So
virtual? Give us some advice. Like, help other practitioners out. How we could build a better engaging customer advisor board online.
yeah, so my personal opinion is that I believe that the in person is infinitely more interactive and more productive, and my personality better lends itself to being face to face with people. There are a lot of
Okay.
people that are very productive online and in Teams meeting, and maybe that's a generational thing. I don't know, but
Right.
the cabs that I've participated in virtually, one, I've got a million distractions. There's zero chance that the people listening to this, or the people that might be in cabs listening to this, that they're going to be able to be at their office or be in their normal routine and really be able to focus for 6 or 8 hours in a cab with all the distractions. If you're working at
Hmm.
home, your home stuff. If I'm here at the office, at the AutoNation office, my door, someone just actually tried to come in while we were on here live, and they saw we were recording and backed out. But there's just a million distractions when you're trying to have back and forth dialogue. I feel people are much more, for some reason, which you think they feel more protected being behind a screen, but I find it to be less interactive
Right.
than in person, which is very strange to me. But more or less, more than anything, is it's the distraction and the ability to really focus and be productive. I recognize that there's significant cost in flying 20, 30 customers to a location, putting them in a hotel, feeding them. I think usually the customer covers the flights, but they cover the hotel and food and stuff while you're there. But I do believe that most people would say that they're more productive in person. Doesn't mean you can't run a cab online. I think people, when you do it online, maybe the companies sometimes are a little less selective on the cab members because they
Hmm.
don't have to vet as much. If there's 20 or there's 50, it's the same cost for them. So maybe you don't get as good of, I don't want to say quality cab participants, but you may not get the level that you want, or, just not interactive. So um, that's kind of my view of the world on this whole, like, in person or remote.
Yeah. So how many virtual cabs do you volunteer for, and how many physical in a year would you say?
So funny enough, several of the cabs that I'm on, they will do one in person, and they'll try to do a quarterly or twice a year virtual one.
Yeah,
I
good
try to
practice.
attend those, but again, like, they want to try to carve out 4 or 5 hours out of the day, in
No
the middle
way.
of the day, which I have to like get myself physically out of the building or out of my house to have that kind of focus. There's just too much
Right.
going on operationally here
Right.
to be able to dedicate that kind of time. So I've joined a few of those.
Right.
And I don't love them. A couple of the ones during the COVID years, they decided, because of the travel stuff and COVID, that they would go virtual, and I just found them not to be nearly as productive. So, all in all, maybe five to six or seven of those I've done over the last 5 years, virtual
Okay.
ones.
Okay. Tell me, because since you've been to like over 40, what does a good to great cab? Because you've been an OG of a cab, meaning you've like the one that you've been in for 7 years, and you see the beginning of it, and then you see it progress, and you see it to great. So maybe you can share some experiences and tips, and what is it like to see something that's okay. So, for example, a basic cab could be, a new leader needing to validate some strategies. They get some people in a room. They try their best to have engagement, but they didn't really practice, and they show up.
Yeah.
The higher one is wow, everything's dialed in. So I want to hear that experience, please. I think a lot of people think if they can just show up, it's enough, and that's good.
Yeah.
I want to get into it.
Yeah. You definitely. You definitely have to, like, if you want to get true value, and I'm guessing these things can cost, significant dollars,
Oh
potentially
yes.
6 figures and up. If you're going to make that investment, you've got to do the homework to prepare for it to get the value. You're basically trying to pack in, a lot of information in an 8 or 9 hour day. You've invested all this money. So yeah, I've seen it done well and I've seen it done poorly. The ones that are done poorly are very sales focused. It's about, it sure they're going to tell you about the roadmap and why they're better than everybody else, but that kind of consumes the day, and that's not, and also it's not very interactive. It's more of a one way. We're bringing you to a place. It's supposed to be an advisory board where you're hearing like a good two-way conversation on a number of topics.
Right.
Only a small portion of those topics should really be about the product, and the rest of it should be about technology generally. That's why I think people want to participate in these things, is for the networking element and to just hear about everybody's problems.
Mhm.
So the ones that are done poorly, very sales focused, very one way conversation, and probably, generally speaking, not well thought out on the topics. They haven't designed the day, the timing very well, spending way too much time on one topic or something that is people want to get deep on. They've carved out 30 minutes. And the ones that are done really well are, certainly there's going to be an element of hearing about the product, hearing about the roadmap. They, I love the ones where they talk about our wish list from the previous cab of features, support issues, whatever, and then they spend the next hour talking about how they've remediated those and the improvements they've made. And they ask us, hey, have you felt these changes? And then they said, okay, what are we going to talk? What do you want to talk about this time next year for us to fix?
Mhm.
And so those are great two-way conversations, and that's where you really feel like you're moving the needle with this company. And then the time, discussion, networking time, talking about the industry generally. CEO FaceTime is always great. Most of the cabs I participated in, the CEO is there.
Mhm.
So you're getting like, real, legit quality FaceTime with the CEO, whether it's formally in a session
Right.
or just sitting at lunch next to him and talking about, what's going well, what's going poorly. These are all kind of the things that I'm looking for out of a successful cab, and yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to nail it on your first try. We definitely recommend people read your book for some good,
Thank you.
thought leadership about how to design one of these things. But the one I've been on for 7 years started off a little bit Mickey Mouse, like very some of the things I'm talking about, but saw it infinitely mature as the company got bigger. They became a powerhouse public company, and now they've acquired another big company. And hearing from the CEO what his vision for bringing these two companies together was very interesting to me, and a million questions about it. So that's my view of good and bad.
Oh, I love it. We are end of time because you have another meeting.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Adam.